And it is Car Con Carne. I'm James Van Osel, still doing this thing from home. It is Quarantine Con Carne, sponsored by our friends at Happy to Meet You. I got sick and tired during this lockdown of going to my local grocery store, getting the meat from there. So I've just turned over to Happy to Meet You. They're Chicago's online butcher shop. They serve the same exact steaks, chops, chicken, sausage that all the local high-end places use. I mean, literally the same stuff. And they deliver it next day. If you're local, get it the next day. The quality, honestly, the best you'll find. And they guarantee you'll be satisfied with what you get. And you will. You can try them out with my help. Use my promo code CARNE, C-A-R-N-E. It's Spanish for meat. Use that to get free local delivery. And I just want to show you real quick. I used them tonight for dinner. I used their hot Italian sausage as the focus of my dish this evening. And I posted a picture of what I ate to the Car Con Carne Instagram. And this is what it looks like. I couldn't wait to the podcast to eat it live on camera. So the hot Italian sausage, steamed it in a cast iron skillet, seared it, topped it with mozzarella and a homemade red sauce, threw it in the oven for, 5 minutes at 500 degrees, pulled it out, minced hot giardiniera. That was glorious. That sausage, as good as it gets. Happy to meet you. Happy to MEAT.com. Again, use my promo code CARNE. I wish there was a scratch and sniff card that I could pass on to let people know how good it smells. Speaking of scratch and sniff, that's an auspicious way to start this. Martin Atkins, old friend Martin Atkins, he of Pigface, Public Image Limited, Killing Joke. He's an educator. He's an all-around good guy. He's also one of the busiest men in rock and roll. Lovely to see you again, Martin.
Was I just here like a week ago?
It seems like it. Time flows so different now in lockdown during COVID. It was August, I think, when last we spoke, but it seems like it was just a couple weeks ago.
Wow. Yeah.
Although I feel like I just saw you because I watched the Pigface.
Oh, and you said really nice things about that. Thank you.
I thought the sound was great. And God, I watch you guys and girls. You just have so much fun on stage. I mean, I know it's a production. It is an undertaking to do a Pigface show and tour, but man, just you couldn't possibly look like you're having a better time doing what you do.
And I don't know how to say this, but to have never mind the 3 bass players and the 5 drummers. Leanne, it's like jokers to the left of me, jokers to the right. Leanne's behind me, Danny Carey to my left, Bradley Bills from Chant to the right, Randall Blythe from Lamb of God. The first night he came out, picked up a drumstick, ding dong, ding bong 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 bong. I go, okay, he's into percussion. He played for 2 hours every single night. We just start setting up more and more drums. Then Jesse Hunt comes out with his movable feast of drums. I mean, but to have Jay Lamar, Cam, Just Chris, and Day come out, they're all mentees of Add 2 down at the Haven, 47th and King Drive. When they came out, they start spitting hips, tits, lips, power. I'm like, oh, okay, this is it now, you know. And Andrew Weiss on bass, and Charles Levi, and Mary Biker, and Leslie Rankin, and Enesh, Kirst Mackey. It's just, I mean, you know, ridiculous, really.
You failed to mention Prince Among Men, Chris Connolly.
Chris Connolly. Who else? There's like 15 other people.
Yeah, I was going to say you're only like halfway through the list at this point. It would take the rest of the night to roll off the Pigface roster. But that was great. You know, I've seen a lot of live shows. I paid for a bunch of live shows during this lockdown. Some are hit or miss. This is something that I hope you'll do something with above and beyond that one-off stream, like commemorate it to, I don't know, a DVD or something. It was just that good.
It's funny you should say that. I think we're doing something at a drive-in on Friday the 27th of November. You know, the bunch of people have been doing drive-in stuff out at Bridgeview, where the Fire play.
Yeah.
And that's cool and all, but there's a drive-in place down in Pilsen.
That's where the Music Box did their Music Box of Horrors.
Yeah.
It's a nice little space.
So what I can see in my head, just to let you into my world, is here's the drive-in screen, right? And we're going to set the drones up. So the drones see Pigface on the screen, and then as they rise up, you get the Chicago, home of Pigface, home of industrial music. Here's the skyline. It's like when they cut to the blimp over the gate or Monday Night Football, let's cut to the drone, So yeah, that's coming up sooner than I thought it was going to come up. But yeah.
See, I thought we were done with drive-in shows just because we live in Chicago and the weather is going to turn something awful, actually, probably tonight. But okay, November 27th it is. Thanksgiving weekend, Black Friday.
But you keep your engines running. I mean, you're not like somebody went to a drive-in in California and said, no, you've got to turn the engines off. I'm like, we're not turning the engines off. We're not going to have people, we are going to have a 15-person casualty count at a Pigface drive-in.
Hypothermia claims 10 at a Pigface drive-in show.
And we're just getting the details together, but I can say only one bucket of beer per car.
Doesn't seem unreasonable.
Yeah.
Actually, it'll be more hot toddy weather than anything.
Yeah. So I'm just excited to do something. I'm on my great things happen when you do stuff kick. And as we were talking earlier, incapable of sitting still. And
that's your thing. You've already done like a week's worth of activity today before we even jumped on this call.
Yeah. But it's weird. So I spoke at Canada's Indie Week this afternoon, and I've been up there a bunch to Toronto and spoken at that thing.
I love Canada, by the way.
Oh, but Toronto is fantastic.
Yeah.
But in talking to the organizers of that festival, it's their 19th year. They've been treading water for a while, and they canceled it, and they're like, no, we should try it. What are we doing? We've been going since May when we did our MMX thing on May the 9th. We just kept going. So to see people who are still dealing with this, getting to grips with it and trying to find a way through it makes me want to just keep doing stuff as a little bit of a beacon of hope is the wrong word for a Pigface drive-in movie experience or any of the stuff that we're doing, but just doing something I think helps,
Oh, I agree. I went to a couple of those drive-in shows in Pilsen, the movies, and it just felt great to get out because, we live in a world where I've said this before on the podcast, people will say to me, well, what are you doing this weekend? I'm staying home. I'm going to be in this spot right here at this desk. So the ability to go out, oh my God, see Pigface at a drive-in? Yes, please. Yeah. Sign me up. Do that every weekend. Why don't you? Yes, that sounds great. Yeah. So one of the reasons, besides the fact that I adore you, one of the reasons I wanted to have you on tonight, you reached out to me a couple of weeks ago, and without even providing details, you just said, I'm part of the first ever Scratch and Sniff music conference, which the second you said that, I thought of, I remember when I was a kid, John Waters, the trashy movie auteur film director, did the movie Polyester. That was the early 80s. And famously, he did it in Odorama. So the people who went to the movie would get a Scratch and Sniff card, and when different things happened on screen, a number would flash, and they'd scratch off the Scratch and Sniff card, and it could smell like ass or pine or glue. Is that what you're doing?
Yeah. Exactly what we're doing. So, and I saw that movie. There's a great scene in that movie where there's a girl skipping through a field with daisies, and it's like, scratch number one, and everybody's like, wow, it's going to be daisies. And you scratch number one, and she treads in a huge pile of cow shit, and everybody's like, wow. So yeah, you should be getting one of these.
Oh, great!
Soon. And
look at that.
There are 8 smells. There's 7 plus one on the nose, and you could see, right? I mean, you could see where the circle of the scent has been printed. These are hand screened. And this is me just trying to be like, all right, so we can't touch each other. We can't sweat and bleed and spit in the air and do all this stuff. What can we do? And everybody has like Zoom fatigue. So it's like, all right, well, everybody, before we start our next panel, scratch number 6. And one of them is the smell of money. Some of the smells are really good, like vanilla is good. My blueberry stuff is really good. The money one, maybe I haven't smelt enough money in my time.
You are a musician.
But it's like, yeah. But so we're trying to have a little bit of fun with it. It was supposed to be a project for myself and my students to do all this printing, but with the virus, I can't have 10 students come down to my print shop. So it's me and my 2 youngest kids. I'm like, come on,
Gotta press them into service.
Yeah. And one of the smells I can reveal is weed. So my 12-year-old and my 15-year-old are like, wow, the smell really clings to you. I'm like,
So the one thing I didn't mention, I kind of went about this the wrong way. I didn't really talk about what this is tied to, what the conference is. This is part of the Midwest Music Expo. I mentioned that at the very beginning. The Midwest Music Expo is a scratch and sniff conference, the first of its kind, certainly not the last, because this will be a rousing success and something that people want to imitate. Someone comes up with a good idea, everyone wants to take it. Explain what the Midwest Music Expo is.
So I started it with my students down at Millikan University in Decatur. And it's just the most gorgeous campus. The week that I arrived, they opened their Starbucks and a $25 million Commons building. I'm like, well, we should do something here, And so we did in 2019. We did the first conference. We had a couple of hundred people come up from Nashville, St. Louis, Chicago, some great speakers. And then we were supposed to do our second one in May. And at first we canceled it because that felt like the responsible thing to do. The better job we do on promotion, the worse it will be for spreading the virus, right? So we canceled it. And then the week after we canceled, we're like, well, it doesn't feel right to not do anything. We started to do weekly workshops. And on May the 9th, we had the second conference, and we tripled our registrations. Lol Tolhurst from The Cure did a session, Randy Blythe from Lamb of God, Wendy Day from Rap Coalition. And it was just tremendous. It was a really long day, but it was tremendous. And the students, that gave me this kind of ammunition that when anybody was saying, well, everything's terrible, it's over. I'm like, yeah, well, everything is terrible. However, we tripled registrations for our event. We had people from 23 countries, not from 200 miles radius of Decatur. And so things started to snowball from there. And this will be our third conference. We've got some great Chicago people. Trey Elder from Quiet Pterodactyl, who did the double vinyl album to benefit venues.
Situation Chicago, which is a fantastic effort.
Yeah. So this is great for me. Like, I'm in Chicago, and this is why conferences work. I met the people from Dark Matter down at South by Southwest, and we're all from Chicago.
Isn't that funny? Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to talking to Trey. There's a studio panel, because we're all studio geeks, with some great people on that. Nikki Darko, Audrey Martinovich, Kevin Garnieri, and Trey. I forget Trey's name from Gravity Studios in Chicago. Wendy Day's doing another panel with us. I think she's really getting into the spirit of it. She's calling it like Sniff Out the Money or something.
Oh yeah, but totally going in on the theme. I appreciate that. And Scary Lady Sarah's going to be there too, right?
I don't think she did. And William interviewed Lol Tolhurst in May.
That's okay.
Yeah. That was really great. We also have Michael Anthony Alargo, who you probably know of. Michael. He signed Metallica when he was 24.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And also was our label rep with Public Image Limited. So, I've met Michael, and it's really great to speak to him after everything he's done. There's a documentary about him called Who the Fuck Is That Guy? and we're screening that on Thursday night. There's a free screening. Like we were trying to go, how can we pay Netflix to do this? I spoke to Drew Stone, the director. He's like, well, we just got the rights back from Netflix and we worked it all out. So we're showing the documentary 7 o'clock on Thursday night. And then Michael and Drew are doing a Q&A afterwards. Then I'm going to speak with him on Saturday as well.
I love that stuff. That's so cool.
And
this is free, right?
Yeah, it's all free. Well, I mean, we did some of these cards. We did like donations for, oh, sorry.
That one took you by surprise, didn't it?
Oh my God. Well, one of the smells may or may not be burning rubber. So, you know,
so a little of that goes a long way, is what you're saying.
Yeah. And then Add 2 is doing a panel on mentorship. Eddie Sanders is doing like a legal team building panel. Galen Lee, Shannon Curtis, and Jamie Hill, and Sandra McDonald, I think it is, from Chill Harmonic, which is the best name for anything ever. They're doing kind of an alternative touring panel. So it's going to be a great day. Saturday's going to be a great day. And yeah, and it's all free. It's all free.
And it's scratch and sniff.
And it's scratch and sniff.
I mean, you had me at free. You throw in the scratch and sniff, and the high concept is all I need to hear. So who's the target? Like, is this for like early 20s people getting into music, or does this work for musicians of all stripes and ages?
I think the advice from the panels is going to be great for people starting off, but also for anybody weathering a pandemic, which is everybody. There's certainly there's a health and wellness HR issues panel. I think most of the panels are going to have that little "what the hell is everybody doing" component.
Yeah.
But there's also one of the things I like about the people that I know is that they'll give me their time and they'll give some really crazily honest opinions and advice to people who might be considered to be potential competition, right? So that's but the overall thing is aimed at lifting anybody up. Like we had a meeting with the city of Chicago. I don't even know when. I think that was Monday, and a few people on that call were talking about some of the youth that they're working with, like, you know, tough at the best of times and really tough now with the our business slightly in tatters. And so, you know, what a great time for some old British lunatic to come jumping up and down with a scratch and sniff card. This smells of banana. Now let me tell you my story. You know, it's like, well, holy crap. I mean, and that's this other kind of underlying thing is creativity is awesome. Artistic energy and reaching out is really important. I think that's what the arts are kind of about. It's not about like, look at my art. It's about community and mirror balls, right? It's like community and mirror balls are like, look, things are really bad, but look at the light dancing on the ceiling. Ooh, and for a moment you just forget and you go, ooh, and you get a little recharge of your batteries and roll up your sleeves and get back into it. And that's the thing that's felt really important to me, you know, to the effect that Molly's been driving around Chicago, dropping off some cards at Dark Matter. And I'm going over to Jackalope Coffee tomorrow to drop some cards off of their Mars Brewery. You're getting one in the mail.
Yes.
Just so people can see this, like, look, if it was just a scratch and sniff card, it would be like, what the hell is he doing? But the graphics are awesome. And it's a really nicely put together, signed and numbered souvenir thing, you know. And that's so it will be a good conference. I mean, that's fine, but the idea that it will lift some people up and go.
That's it. I mean, it can't be. I mean, we're all very aware of what the past 8 months have been like. Everyone's stuck at home. Lots of musicians don't know necessarily what that path forward is, being able to tap into creative energy, like-minded energy, hearing people talk who they may not normally have access to, I've got to think that's an important thing. That it's a difference maker and can be a difference maker for a lot of people.
Well, and I don't know if I mentioned this to you before, but you know, when the lockdown started, I came back down here to the office. I was kind of frightened actually, to see the level of fear is not the right word. The guys at Dark Matter were a little bit frozen for a few days with the prospect of 107 employees, and I came here and I printed up some of my stay the fucking side coffee bags, and I signed them and I took them up to Dark Matter, and over the next 10 days they sold 300 of these $50 combinations and raised $15,000. So the like, how silly is it to print a brown paper bag, right? But that's kind of really helped me, you know, and it's helped a lot of other. The reason I'm just telling you that right now is, you know, anybody can do this and screen print some bags or shirts or do some things and help either themselves or other people. And next thing you know, another week's gone by and things are getting a little bit better. You know who's killing it? You know who's absolutely killing it?
Who?
Melissa Etheridge.
I've not even been aware of what she's been doing.
Oh my goodness. So in March, yeah, maybe March or April, March, when the lockdown started, she went straight onto Facebook Live at 3 o'clock. And for the next 57 days, did a free event every day. Until her son tragically died from some opioid-related complications or something. But then after a little bit, she came back on a new platform and she has 1,000 subscribers now who pay $50 a month, $10 a day or $50 a month for her 5 events a week on Melissa Etheridge TV, whatever she's calling it. And every day is different. It's cover songs one day. Her and her partner talk about shit another day. Another day she'll go through her video vault. You know, she's in her garage, you know, she's in her garage doing this stuff. And this is important, I think. I heard a manager talking at an event. Deb Klein, I think, is her manager. And she said she has a 7-camera setup. And it's mobile, because once the lockdown is over, once she can tour, she's not going to sever this new connection she's made with her fans.
Right. Why would she?
I mean, slightly cynically, she's not going to sever the $50,000 a month pipeline either. But that is too cynical, because this connection is real, and she's going to take this 7-camera rig on the road. And so,
brilliant.
If you're at home thinking, once this is all over, I'm going to make some moves, you're screwed, because people like Melissa Etheridge have already she's already on version 3. She did the Facebook thing, couldn't monetize it, didn't get the email exchange and the data that they wanted. Mm-hmm. So they launched on a new platform called Maestro. And now, during this long conversation, they're seeing Melissa's fans come online, about 700 of the 1,000 subscribers every day, and they're forming little chat groups.
Sure.
So now they're working with the software developers to facilitate small chat groups. And if you saw, Cold Waves did a fantastic job on the thing. When was that? 2 months ago?
Not even. It was, I guess it was September. Yeah. Again, dates and times don't mean anything anymore.
Yeah. But I was watching that on Twitch. I also had a Facebook chat thing going. But if you're on Twitch, you know, by the time I responded to somebody, I mean, my response was 2 miles down the text thing. So I absolutely understood what Melissa Etheridge was saying, right? We're gonna facilitate these groups and nurture relationships for other people that are part of her whole situation. So,
and this makes sense to me because I've always understood one of the basics of marketing is to really strike a chord with a small group of highly interested people. It's a lot different than filling an arena, but if you have 1,000 fans who will take a bullet for you, metaphorically, you can't put a price tag on that.
right. Well, you can $50,000 a month.
There it is. There it is.
But I went to look at her site, and it wasn't. I mean, I can talk because my invisible record site is probably like down for maintenance or just has been hacked. But it wasn't much. It was like a list of the things, and then I see like 2 weeks from now, the Melissa Etheridge cruise, and I'm like, well, that's ridiculous. No one's going on a cruise, and neither is she. It's just a pretend cruise. Well, she'll probably have like a circular porthole window, fake window behind her, and everybody's going to pretend they'll have some like umbrella drinks and pretend they're on a cruise. And now here's the merchandise that goes with her pretend cruise.
Brilliant.
Like, oh my God. So I urge anybody who's struggling with any of this, stop struggling, roll up your sleeves and start just doing something. And because you need to become familiar. I was on what's it called? StreamYard,
mm-hmm.
that platform yesterday.
Which I think is very easy to use.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I think it sits on top of OBS, but like it seemed really easy. And then I was on Hoover, WHOVA. That was my second time in a week. I'm like, oh, okay, where's the chat? What's going on here? Let me sign in, get my emails on Hoover as part of this other conference. And so, but if you're not diving in, now I can be like, okay, what's this platform number 7 this week? You become better at skating around all this stuff.
For sure.
Not having an ADD, OCD, whatever, freak out.
It's interesting. You mentioned Melissa Etheridge, and we see the stuff you do. I'm finding that a lot of more veteran, which is a euphemistic way to say older artists, are really embracing the opportunities. Robin Hitchcock, I think, is doing like 2 shows a week from home, and it's him being totally fucking weird with his cats and his girlfriend playing obscure soft boys songs from 1979 and going deep on Brian Ferry covers. I had Midge on like a month or 2 ago.
Wow.
And he's doing a Patreon thing. He's got a camera set up, like multi-camera, kind of like Melissa. Private performances. He probably doesn't have 1,000 fans like Melissa does, but he has a small core that turn up for all of his private events. And he's got this rig, which, like Melissa Etheridge, he can take out on the road once this veil lifts. And it's just interesting that some of the more veteran artists are really finding a way through this, be it out of necessity, desire, creative urge, whatever. They're doing it.
Well, it doesn't seem crazy to me. Like, I was watching TV today, and there's a new pizza thing. I think it's called Pie-tastic or something like that. No, it's called Piestro.
I like that even more.
Right? And it's basically like, it's this huge, it's like the size of a small car, like a pizza vending machine with a huge window. And you're like, yeah, hey, and you type in your toppings and it throws down all this like impossible to go bad pepperoni, whatever, handfuls of cheese, and it like, fries it under and it comes out the other side. And that was like when I heard about the first drum machine, in 1978. I'm like, oh shit, it's over for me. There's a machine, and actually, guitarists and bass players who love to poke fun at drummers, like, yeah, well, tick-tock, Martin, there's a machine for that now. And what shitty drum machines did, and are still doing, is making life difficult for shitty drummers. And the Piestro is going to make things difficult for mediocre pizzas, right? But once you've been through the drum machine And like, once you've had your own analog tape recording studio, and it's like, no, we've all gone digital. What's best? Analog, right? Everybody's doing everything from home. And then it's like vinyl and cassette and 8 tracks, and then it's CDs, and then it's iTunes, then it's streaming, and then Spotify want to have you pay to get exposure. It's like, don't get me started on Spotify. And
Yeah,
now,
right.
once you've been through all the stuff, it's like, it's a Tuesday. I mean, it literally is a Tuesday. And so the people who've been through that, the people who've been on the road, and just any artists out there, don't forget that we can't tour right now, but don't forget that experience of walking into a shitty club you thought had been bombed the night before and it just hadn't been cleaned yet, with the monitors that don't work, the bathroom that doesn't work, the microphones that give you electric shocks, the front of house where all the 18s are blown, and you work through, and where you can't, the stage is too low for all of your scenery, and you just make it work. And so you've got all these veterans who just used to rolling up their sleeves and making it work. And rather than disappoint an audience in Toledo on a Tuesday night, they just make the best of it. And I think that's one of the reasons I love teaching music business stuff, because it works everywhere else.
And that was my next question. I mean, you've accomplished plenty as a musician throughout your career, and you've spent so much of your time and energy focused on bringing up this next generation of musicians as an educator. Where does that come from? Is education in your blood? Was it something that you were interested in had you not gone into music? Or is this something you feel is like some kind of karmic responsibility as someone who's advanced to a certain level that you need to give it back?
Yeah, no. No, it's like, it's just, if we did a thing, you might have heard of the Pomplamoose tour fiasco, where they played to 1,100 people in San Francisco. They did 24 shows and they lost $12,000. Well, I pulled that tour up. I do free touring classes on a Monday night and a Saturday morning, in my spare time. And we give everybody my books for free as well. Like, how can you not, right? But I went through the budget. I did some cost projections, and I made them an extra $211,000, and that was without withholding the fee that they paid to their business managers. Like, how do you lose $11,000 and then you pay your business manager for the advice, right? So I think it's like, once you get to a certain point, like, how could I not sit down with somebody and go, hey, look at this. They could have done this, And as far as education goes, yeah, I mean, I have 4 boys of my own. And so I feel a certain responsibility to throw this stuff out there to pollute their world, a little bit. And also, being down here on the South Side, I mean, it can get a little bit crispy down here, and absolutely feel a responsibility to help anybody who hasn't been helped for a while, yeah, so we're exhausted.
Yeah, I think people on the outside might look at this like, why is he spending so much time with musicians or trying to help? I'm a big believer in sharing whatever knowledge you have. It elevates the industry you're in, the field you're in, the arts you create, if there are more people delivering better examples of it. I'm by no means an expert at podcasting, but I'm absolutely thrilled to share what I know with someone who's interested in doing it, because it can be a little muddy trying to navigate through it. Like, the more the merrier. Let's all better ourselves at the same time.
I had a moment, definitely 12 years ago, before Tour Smart came out. Somebody just said to me, really? You're putting that in a book and you're selling it? And I'm like, yeah, isn't it great? Like, well, that will be the last consulting job you ever get. And I'm like, I didn't have any consulting jobs anyway. And I'm like, and I actually stopped for a minute. I'm like, whoa, is that, and I'm like, oh, fuck it, and what I didn't realize was by sharing that, I mean, I've been to more places speaking than I have been drumming, and I've been to a lot of places drumming. Mm-hmm. And there are all these other things that I didn't realize would happen after the book. More teaching opportunities, more speaking opportunities, and exposure to a bunch of other things. People who have mentored me, they see me doing my thing. And so, there's still people around from a generation above me who are very happy to mentor me and throw some advice, So, I mean, I don't want to be sitting here like I'm not, I'm an entrepreneur, but I think there's very clearly a time where I've got no interest in selling my books. I'm like, sign up for my classes. Like, yes, sign up for my classes, but they're free. And here's a book. Because it's like, and that comes from music, right? If you've ever played on an album or a single that someone said to you, you got me through a really bad breakup, or this, my dad died, or something happened, and your music got me through that period in my life, then how can you not strive to stoke those fires during a fucking global pandemic, right? If you've got some time on your hands and you want a 650-page book that says fuck a lot, be my guest, Yeah.
You said something in there about a song that got someone through a bad time. And as you were saying that, I flashed back to Trent Reznor's acceptance speech for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame this weekend. He said something very similar as he accepted his award. How do you feel about Nine Inch Nails getting inducted this past weekend?
Makes me feel old, it makes me feel old, and good for him. I felt as though, and I don't know the inner workings of that stuff. I mean, I'm in a video and I worked on a couple of songs with them, but
you're so dismissive. You worked on a couple songs, one of which won a Grammy.
Well, okay, yeah, but it was also the beat from Ballroom Blitz by the Sweet.
Great song.
I felt as though I thought Rich Patrick should have been involved in that. He felt like he was a big part of the beginning of that. I don't know, but it's like, yeah, whatever. Somebody was saying to me online, now PiL needs to be inducted. I'm like, well, John believes he did all of that himself anyway, so no, he's not going to call anybody. And but is Melissa Etheridge inducted? Because she should be as well.
I don't know the answer to that. I feel like she is like Rolling Stone Rock and Roll Hall of Fame establishment type artist, and she should probably already be there.
Well, because she's kicking ass. So, I mean, it's great to see. It's nostalgic, and it makes me feel old to see that happen with Nine Inch Nails. But it's like it's great. Of course, it's great.
And T-Rex. One thing I'm learning as I'm trying to teach myself guitar during this pandemic, some of my favorite riffs, T-Rex riffs, they're actually really easy.
Oh,
that was like 20th Century Boy couldn't be easier. And it's one of my favorite riffs in the history of rock and roll.
I used to sit in front of the TV and watch T-Rex, Sweet, Slade, Mud, Bay City Rollers. And, I spoke on Sunday at an event in Manchester called Louder Than Words. And Don Powell, the drummer from Slade, was one of the speakers. And I was just like, yeah. If 10-year-old, I mean, we're still 7,000 miles apart, but it felt really great to be on a web ad with Don Powell from Slade. Yeah, that was really good.
And we are getting a little bit off topic. This weekend is the Midwest Music Expo. It is Scratch and Sniff. It is also free. And the people who you have talking this year, fantastic. You mentioned Wendy Day, and Lowell's doing it again. Lowell Tolhurst.
No, Michael Anthony Alargo.
Sorry.
Add 2. Greg Spiro from Weebid. Trey Elder.
Trey Elder, yes.
Wendy Day. Shannon Curtis, Jamie Hill, Galen Lee, Sarah McDonald from Chill Harmonic, Shauna Potter of War on Women, Ace Peaver from Over the Bridge, Eddie Sanders, Chicago-based attorney of repute, Kevin Garnieri, who Kevin was on somebody huge. He's worked with a bunch of huge people, like 10 years LA producer. He also teaches at Millikan. That's how I got him to do it. Gray Taxon from Gravity Studios, Audio Martinovich from Audio from the Arts, Nikki Darko from Black Lion Audio. I mean, just a ton of great people. And this experiment, right? So one of the things I like to tell people is about the value of stories. And do I have time to tell you a little story?
Martin, I literally am going nowhere until at least 2021.
Okay. So this journalist did an experiment. He bought 200 items off of eBay for $129. He got friends, he hired some people to attach a story to each of these understandably fairly shitty items, right? A milk jug, a coffee cup, this kind of horse's head, but pottery. And then put the items back on eBay with the stories. This horse's head was in my grandma's house. I'll never forget, every time I came down the stairs, I would see it with a shadow from the early morning sun, and blah, 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 whatever. And grandma was over the kitchen table snorting cocaine, whatever. And he sold those items for $8,000.
Oh, that's amazing.
Right. And this is a TED talk. This is real. I didn't just make this up. And I'm like, really? And I keep going back, like, really? Yeah, I thought it was 200 items. It was 129 items that he then sold for $8,000. And the horse's head in question, he paid 40 cents for, and he sold it for $80.
So people are emotional, and they respond to things that strike their heart.
Right. So stories are powerful and connections are powerful. And the olfactory system, the system of smell, is the deepest, hardest, most permanent way to fix a memory in the brain. So
like when you smell something when you're out in the world and it takes you back to that time in 1987 when you were at the mall and you ran into that one girl, like stuff like that.
Well, we don't need to delve too deeply into your sordid past, James.
That's not even, that's wholesome. That's like Archie Andrews 1950 stuff. Come on.
Okay. But yeah, so baby powder, there's a smell, right, that takes you to a certain place. So maybe, it sounds like I'm being altruistic and it's free, but maybe anytime you smell like burning rubber, I'm not saying that one of these is burning rubber, but anytime you smell burning rubber, I must register for Martin's new seminar, right? So I'll just drive around Chicago burning rubber with the spray and getting everybody to remember.
That makes total sense to me. I love that you keep challenging yourself to come up with new stuff, which on paper sounds batshit, but hearing it explained makes perfect sense.
Well, thank you.
It is a compliment. I swear it didn't sound that way.
But also, one of the, I throw blueberry muffins at the end of every lecture I've done for 15 years. And the reason I do that is my journey with Scratch and Sniff started a long time ago. I did blueberry Scratch and Sniff on a white vinyl 7-inch for a Chicago band called The Countdown. They were signed to my label for a while. And so
I somehow missed this. That's brilliant.
Okay, I'll give you one. And so what I would do, like 10 years ago when I would speak, everybody was just freaking out. We can't give music away. Just wait a few years, everyone.
Yeah.
there's no piracy anymore. It's just called Spotify. But
You swore you wouldn't go there.
no. So I would hand these 7-inch singles out to everybody in the audience and go, right, so wow. And they would scratch and, oh my God, it's blueberries. I'm like, wow, I just handed out a few of those. So I just completely disrupted my ability to make any money. They're like, yeah, you did. This guy's an idiot. I'm like, but did everybody smell the blueberry? And everybody's like, yeah. I'm like, well, does anybody feel like a blueberry muffin? And people are like, oh, fuck. People would have killed some for a blue. So then I start dangling these blueberry muffins and people start reaching in their pockets that I've got to have a blueberry muffin. And then I throw the muffins at people. And then, of course, people go mad for a while eating muffins and then realize I've sabotaged another revenue stream. And then I'm like, okay, who does anybody want a glass of milk? Like, we could just keep going, right? So everything is fluid. And you could just keep challenging yourself. Like, here's the thing you used to sell, give it away. And what opportunity does that create? You know, maybe the milk's free, but it's in a souvenir, specially embossed plastic cup. You know, I don't know, you know, maybe I don't know, but it's more of a thing than no thing. And certainly the smell of blueberries, the existence of blueberries, people joke about that all the time with my lectures now. So maybe if people smell blueberries, they go and buy one of my books. I don't know.
I do like this approach that you've been talking about this whole time. It is to look at things from a non-traditional perspective. I think people have a very fixed concept of how to get from where they are now to that next marker along the way. But the truth is, it's not a direct path, and it zigzags and it goes in circles and in unforeseen directions. And you have to be able to train your mind to figure out what those tangents are, because those are the ones that I think really are rewarding.
I've got such a great story for you. Yeah, there is no straight line from A to B, and I've accumulated a few of those stories. But if I was to ask you or anybody tuning in, how do you get to be on the floor of the New York City Stock Exchange as a trader, right? So you can map out in your head that path. Well, I guess you've got to go to school. You've got to do this and do this. You've got to sit this exam and do, right? And there's that path. Nothing ever happens like that, ever. So I was talking to this guy last week. My friend Ted Cohen introduced us. And he was a Wall Street trader. And I said to him, how did that happen? How did that happen? He's like, well, it's very interesting. It's not what you might think. I'm like, oh, tell me. Said, well, we had this very young female dog, and our neighbor had quite an aggressive male dog. And that male dog impregnated our very young female dog. And we had to, she was too young to have a litter. So she had to have a procedure to get rid of the puppies, you know. It was just really traumatic and horrible and distressing for everybody. And at the end of this horrifying 2 weeks, the next door neighbor said to this guy's mom, God, is there anything I could ever do to make it up to you? And she's like, yeah, get my son a job. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, so that's how things happen, right? And I think any smart people listening, which is everybody's smart, right? They'll immediately like try and start strategizing what to do. Martin's right. Don't fucking strategize anything. Print a brown paper bag. Do the equivalent of something like that doesn't cost much, it's okay if it takes a bunch of energy and time, because we all have that, right? Most of us do, I think. It's good to get rid of some energy. And maybe it's not a successful coffee thing that generates a bunch of money. Maybe it just helps something over here. We sent these bags with some shirts to venues around the country. They put drinks tickets in the bags, and sold the bags for like $50, like a shirt, a button, signed by me, 4 or 5 drinks tickets. It's like the Hideout do this kind of stuff, right? And it's like next thing you know, a couple of weeks have gone by and you've made another payment and the rent's been paid. And it's like you catch a little bit of air, just tiny, small stuff, tiny, small stuff.
That's great advice. And when you told the story about being on the stock exchange, I still hear from students and people of college age, I want to go into radio. How do I get an internship? How do I become an on-air personality? And I'll say, well, what are you doing right now? Well, I'm in school. Okay, but what are you doing like to be a personality? Well, I want to work my way up to do this and that. I'm like, you have a microphone and a recording system in your front pocket. Like, you're a radio personality right now. Pull it out of your pocket, start doing something. Because again, there's that idea. This is what is prescribed. You have to untrain yourself from all those lessons you've been told. You got to figure it out on your own.
Right. I always ask everybody that I talk to at any of these events, all right, this and that, how did you get your start? How did it all happen? And I know Michael Alargo, who's doing the subject of this documentary on Thursday. Michael Alargo just started skipping, like playing hooky from home and school at the age of 15, 16 in Brooklyn, and going to shows all over New York all night. He ended up booking the Ritz in New York City at the age of 19.
That's amazing.
And so, you know, that's something that feels like it's missing a bit. You know, I joined PiL at the end of my 19th year. You know, by the time, I was in and out of PiL in 5 years. By the time I was 24, I was doing something else. And I see lots of people waiting and waiting and waiting. And you lose the ability to sleep on floors and have a different risk assessment, of your own personal comfort. I think the guy who worked on, was it Bruce Springsteen's album or something, like slept underneath the console at the studio. I think it would be great to look at 100 people who got somewhere and find out how they did it, because it's not the way you think. It's not a straight line, and it involved all kinds of risk and sacrifice, and risk and sacrifice that I think a bunch of people would have problems with today. When I joined Killing Joke, I'd filed for resident alien status in the US, because I'd been here for 4 years at that point. And I was on a multiple entry H1 visa, courtesy of Warner Brothers with PiL. And so I did all my FBI stuff, the fingerprints, all this stuff. But I was told if I got on a plane to go and audition, it wasn't an audition. They're like, come and join our band. But if it had gone wrong, it wouldn't have lasted very long. But I knew getting on that plane that if things didn't work out, I could have been in England for 2 years while the FBI, Scotland Yard, they do all these checks as a matter of course, and I see caution, maybe rightly, but I see a lot of caution from kids these days. And Richard Branson said, leap before you look.
Yeah, that's it.
A bit more of that,
I want to read a couple comments before we wrap. Let's see. Tom says, hell yeah, go Martin. Molly would like to remind us about what's happening this weekend, which is to say the Midwest Music Expo. It is free, and you can sign up for that. And amazing morning and afternoon of learning. Let's see. People are excited about Trey Elder. Natalie's excited about Dark Matter Coffee. We all are. Let's see. Christian, I don't know what specifically he was referring to. He said, well stated. That could apply to anything Martin said tonight.
Oh, thanks.
Rob is excited about Scratch and Sniff. So say we all. Clarissa says, Martin, you rock. Could listen to you all day.
Well, thank you, Clarissa.
Let's see. Oh, who is the producer? You're trying to figure out his credentials. Mason says he produced for Mariah Carey. He's one of your panelists on Saturday.
Kevin Garneri. Mariah Carey. Holy shit! He also did maybe more in our ballpark. He worked with the Mescaleros. Who's the guy from the Clash?
Joe Strummer.
Joe Strummer. Yeah. He played me some multi-tracks of that stuff. Yeah,
I love the Mescalero stuff.
Yeah, Kevin is like, I mean, he's really, top flight stuff. Yeah. Hey, can I just tell you something?
Yes.
So I got this thing, Gthwidis, great things happen when you do stuff. That's my acronym. Nothing happens when you don't. But yeah, it's crazy to do a scratch and sniff event. But for me to be on speakerphone with Michael Alargo, and if you know him, you'll know him after watching the documentary on Thursday, but he's like, I'm like, we're doing a scratch and sniff. And he's like, what? And I'm like, maybe there's a Metallica video, where there's a wheel spinning. We could do like a burnt rubber thing that would be kind of shocking to the nose. He's like, no, I want the smell of sweaty boys in a mosh pit. Or failing that, a jock strap. And I'm like, okay, then, so then I'm on the phone to the scent company. Hello, do you have anything like a sweaty, salty jock strappy? And, they sent me like 15 sampler cards. Go from like onion to garlic to cheese, basically. Just very disappointing. Michael got really upset with me, so I'm like, this is fantastic. Just like the stockbroker story, like who's had an argument with Michael Alargo about failing to deliver the smell of sweaty boys? Like me, I have.
That is definitely some John Waters level shit there.
Yeah. And of course, as you said, the whole thing is absolutely inspired by John Waters. And but when you said other people will copy this, go ahead, because it's a fucking nightmare. Printing 8 different scents on a car. Are you kidding? Like, yeah, go ahead and copy this idea. Good. Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. And we talk every time I talk to you, we talk about innovation, creativity, finding your muse. People may not copy this directly, but it may light a spark for some other seemingly bonkers idea that connects. I mean, I love using you as a linchpin for ideation. I love stuff like this.
No such thing as bonkers. I tell you something that I thought was bonkers.
the plush Martin Atkins.
This girl says to me, I want to make a voodoo doll. I'm like, go get away from me, And 3,000 voodoo dolls later, one of these is on the shelf at Tiny Desk at NPR. Somebody just told me, I saw Sting. I just saw Sting, and you're in the background. Wu-Tang Clan on NPR, and I'm in the background. There's no such thing as crazy.
Here, this is my artist rendering of the Martin Atkins voodoo doll. For people who are just listening, I have a chalkboard behind me whenever I do the video recording, and I write down the episode number of Car Con Carne. It's just in the background, just as a subtle reminder, especially to me when the show's over and I've got to start writing up what the show's about. For this episode, I just drew Martin Atkins, or the plush version of him.
Yeah.
Best I could do on a chalkboard.
No, it's fine. It's absolutely spot on.
Thank you.
I'm surprised you didn't get like Facebook recognition on that.
That's right. I trigger some kind of algorithm just by posting that. All right, Martin Atkins, you've had a busy day. You've, as always, you're incredibly generous with your time. The Midwest Music Expo, where are people going to sign up for this?
Oh my goodness. Is Molly there with a link?
Well, if you're watching on Facebook, the link is all over the chat. So that's a good place to look. In fact, if you're listening to this after the fact, Car Con Carne's Facebook in the chat with Martin, tons of links. But if you Google Midwest Music Expo, I mean, we all know how to navigate the internet.
Follow me on Twitter, MartEen. You could go to martinatkins.com. All the Midwest Music Expo is there. Plus, you grab a free book while you're there. The information is all over the place. It's free to register for Thursday night and for all day Saturday.
I love it. All right. Thank you, everybody, for watching on Facebook. Much appreciated. Thank you, of course, for listening and for watching on YouTube.